Oh no, what's up, what's up, what's up? Back at it again. Gonna get into it. Juice movie Decode. All right, another photo film live exclusive, but we gonna get into it. Movie Decode. This season 2. Going into a lot of movies that came out, they had more meanings to it, they had layers. Things that happened in these movies, they wasn't popular at the time, but later on you will see these things became a reality. So we're gonna get into what is known as a classic film, and that is called Juice. So once again, this is a movie that people grew up on, but this is also the remix, the upgrade of Cooley High. So that's why I'm talking about it this week, because this is the updated version of Cooley High when they upgraded the same formula of failure. So it's the same thing. It was just upgraded, and you're also going to see, okay, when I did the Cooley High, it was about the rebellious juvenile. But when we get into Juice, this is when the juveniles turn into killers. And that was the era. This also strategically came in the 90s. This came out 92. You get between 91 92. So it came out right before 92. So the point is, that's before it was all of that violence. And we also gonna look at now, they see, a lot of people forget too. Tupac gangster persona, thug persona really comes from Juice. People always forget that. His whole tough guy persona comes from Juice, because the role he played in it was so believable. But people don't get, Tupac inspired people with the movie Juice first. But you now can see Tupac was always the face of thug life criminal. He was always going to be that criminal hero for thug life, because now you can see how he was written into every script. Yeah, and it's also not a coincidence. If I'm not mistaken, every script he took, he died in the script. Yeah, that's another thing to Tupac as well. Yep, a lot of roles. Every damn near role he took, he died in the movie. So this movie is before what you heard about. The way the world is crazy now, it was a such thing where friends didn't slay each other. Friends might have fought. Friends might have did a lot of different things, but it was never no such thing as friends slaying each other. But this one, it started to first be promoted. Just like anybody know the story of Alpine Ridge Porter, it's the same story. It was just in Juice, but it was happening in real life at that time, because this movie go back to 91, 92. So, but it also takes place in Harlem. But it was showing us how betrayal of friends will one day be popular. Yeah. No mercy for your friends. Let's go. So, you know, the most wickedest part that was played in the movie was Tupac going to the funeral of his friend that he slaughtered. So you got to also look at how this stuff became popular. He became a hero. This mentality became normal. It became picked up. Slaying people, going to funerals, spraying up funerals. This also is when you can see now that the snake was glorified. The snake, low down dirty, was, get it, the hero of the movie. Because remember, they also know in Hollywood, when they write scripts, you're going to pick one. And that's what movies were always about. All right? So like when I said with Cooley High, it's the same formula. That's why movies are written with scripts. Because, hey, you might be a thug. You might live in a rough neighborhood. You'll relate with the thug guy. You might be a good guy. You're not like that, but your friends are thugs. You might relate with the other one. Hey, you're not into none of that. You like your rap music. That's cute. You might be the guy that think you're smart and you don't do a lot of crime, but you still deal with the streets, you know. So I'm just showing you that's Raheem, but it's always like that. Characters. This also what started the whole thing of hanging with your homeboys. Like I said, you're gonna see it always been this thing. So when you see to this day, people get locked up, all their friends, when people get pulled over in a car full of people, this is where it all start from. It always is taught, hang with your friends, hang with everybody. You need everybody for everything, nothing on your own. This is where it all started from, y'all. All right. And don't forget, juice is what we call clout now. It's all it is. Same thing. Juice was just, you got the juice, you got the respect, you got the clout, you the man. All right. Everybody respect you. So this also, when all that started, people first started trying to get a big name for themselves. I'm not going to say when it first started, but I know this when people started trying to get a name for themselves for being a shooter. I know that part for a fact. This is where it started at. All right. When everybody was trying to get a name for themselves by being Bishop. And that's what started. And even if people had to shoot their own friends, rob their own friends, this when it started happening. Setting their own friends up. Yep. And it was showing us, you know, like we figured out as you got older, when you get to high school, things start changing. The more you start growing up, things start changing and people start going separate ways. So that was also in Juice, because don't forget the key to Juice was Tupac Bishop was from a broken home. His father was disabled. His father was mentally a gump. He was poor as hell. He was messed up. He hated his life. But you're going to see Q, he had a good life. That's why Q was being a what? DJ. He had talent. Not only that, it shows you that Q come from a good family because his mother was able to buy him equipment, even though he had a little brother, but he represented the positive figure. See, he was positive. Then Raheem was the one that kept them all together. Still, he was the cool guy, but he would be the one considered the lame, the cornball, the nerd. But this is how it always went. This is how we grew up. Everybody had their own personality, but as time went on, people started to take on other personalities. That's Bishop. See, Bishop was just like them. That's the point. He was just like them, but his circumstance in life and him being clown and him hating his life and he knowing he wasn't built like that, it was also shown in this movie how one day the one that hates his life, the one that's really a punk, is going to be the main one to pick up that gun. And he's going to learn that gun gives him a new identity in these streets. It's called respect, juice, a name, where you could be a nobody from a broken home, nothing in your house, no respect. Your father, your whole life is a joke, but you can pick up this gun and make a name for yourself and be somebody. Even if it's people having people scared of you. That's where all this comes from. It's come from right here. All right? So just know all this is glorified, and it's glorified to this day. When I say these are the movies you're going to see every year like clockwork. Every year, but when it get hot, they come out every summer. As I say, I know this shit so long, y'all. Like when I tell you I've been start watching certain movies because I already know them by heart. But then once I already learned the system, how certain times of the year before they make sure they drop them. Because before the summer comes, juice gonna drop. You might have fallen out with your friends. All of that. It's a teaching. So you also got to look at these movies like if you never saw them before, you're young, you see it for the first time. This is how it teaches. And yeah, but you're going to see how these are considered classic movies that we grew up on and we love, but we're just looking at it in hindsight, how they represented the young men having fun, but they were also playing hooky. So the same element that was in Cooley High, the promotion of cutting school, dropping out, failing. They cut school to do dirt all day, stealing, going in bars. Juice also shows you the relationship of teenagers and grown-ups, because that's how we grew up. It showed you in the movie when they had beef with each other, they was going to grown-ups getting pistols. They was showing you all of that. When they skip school, they go to the spot. With Samuel Jackson, let him come in, even though he's the grown-up, but he let the juveniles come in there because they were showing us Geppetto behavior back then. It's all in the movie. Yeah. So, see, when they were playing hooky, remember, he represents the Geppetto, y'all, that talked to the high school kids. See, that's what all this was about. The high school kids skip ahead of school, but you see him talking to the girl, right? That's what it's about. Arcade during the school hours. So that's what he represented. But it just showed you the whole movie was based on mischief. It showed you how to cut, skip school, do it all. Just like Cooley High showed you how they look up to the old street guy that's a failure, or you know, get a criminal, whatever. So it's just showing you, man, how all this is a raise in the teaching. But when we first watching it, it's entertainment. All right, so it shows betrayal. So like I said, it shows stealing. when it was showing that you deal with rap, you're gonna be a criminal regardless, because they was in a record store stealing music. It also was showing how talking to older women when they were cute cutting school, going to, he had an older chick on the side. Yeah, people ain't peeping all of that. It was promoting all of that, and it's no coincidence that's how a lot of people grew. We grew up like that, dealing with older women. So all of that's in here. You get it? So mind you, they supposed to be in high school, but this is what started a lot of stuff, y'all. So you also see it went from them having fun together to them just being regular to them going through basic stuff in the neighborhood. And this is the thing, this is the part of Juice they were showing us when they were glorifying neighborhood beef. And they were showing us back then, it's always going to be beef in the hood. Now, back then it was beef, but it wasn't the way that you got thinking now how many people died. It wasn't like that back then. A lot of people, like, even when you see the movie, back then, somebody put out a gun was a big deal. All right? It was a big deal, meaning people knew better than that, and they knew if they put that gun out, there's a lot going to come with that. So it wasn't a whole lot of back and forth, what I'm telling you. It was not a lot of back and forth. It were people hit their targets, and they knew they was going to hit, and that was that. But all that other stuff started after this. So you're also going to see this was started the carrying the firearm too. So when you see Tupac in the scene, he was strapped because it also represents how they was getting bullied. And that happened in real life, that after a while, the bullies was getting bullied was going to start carrying guns. But this is also why a lot of people started catching gun charges, because even people that were innocent, they started carrying firearms. So these movies also would promote carrying guns, y'all. So that's why I tell people, like, it's not a coincidence the way I grew up. I grew up a certain way around guns, all of that. That's what we grew up on. We were raised into that stuff, like for real, for real. So this when a lot of it all started. Now, mind you, many of us at this time, 13, 14, 15, 16, but all of this is where it started at. Get it? The love of firearms in the street and dealing with your beef with firearms. This when all that fighting went out the window, because it was fighting, then it was jumping. You're going to see that it was about jumping. And then after jumping, it went to the firearm. And after that, it's been firearm ever since. But this way it all started at, and that's what Juice showed you. Juice showed you the whole thing. Hey, you don't want to get beat up no more. Get you a gun. You get it? It's all in the movie, y'all. So that's why you see they was all scared of Rodamez. They was all scared of Rodamez because he had them in fear. He was the neighborhood Debo. But it shows you that they wasn't built like that. See, that's why I'm saying they really came from good homes. They really wasn't street like that. Now, Raheem was streetwise because he had respect. But the rest of them, they wasn't respected like that. And you also got to understand, Tupac wanted Raheem's spot. Raheem, the one that originally had the juice, the respect. Tupac always wanted his clout. So that's also in the movie too. See, that's why Tupac played the role of the Judas, because he always wanted all the juice. And he was willing to betray his friends to get the juice and the clout and the respect. So that's why you're going to see when it was Raheem made a mistake of putting that gun in his hand, but it also shows you that Raheem had the clout, because you had to have clout back then to even get your hands on a firearm. So that's why you're going to see Raheem had the clout and the respect. That's why he was the one that came with the firearm when it was time for them to do the robbery, which also was showing the beginning of promoting a lot of robberies. Also at this time, I know people that were teenagers, they went to jail for robbing stores, because all that was promoted in this movie, robbing stores, robbing corner stores. See that? I watched this happen in real life, man. So that's how I'm able to see now as a grown man how all this shit was a teaching. I see how everybody was in high school fighting. Everybody was in high school getting along, little confrontations. Then I seen when it went to this. People started getting guns. People started shooting at each other. People started doing armed robberies. And everybody started going to jail. People started dying. And that's when it all started. This movie is a teaching, y'all. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's a teaching. It's a spirit. And out of all the people in the movie, whose spirit you think they want everybody to catch? It's Bishop. And that's how it always been, y'all. But see, I can break down the whole movie because I know the whole shit. See, they all was good. And Tupac was the hater. He was the worst one. He represents that bastard kid that come from dirt, nothing. And he hated his life. So he made other people's life horrible and miserable. Right? He was jealous. Because still, remember they went to his house when nobody was home. He was good. Q, he was good. He had, his family was functioning. They were straight. And then you're going to see Raheem had the respect. Tupac also back then, the hoodie I told you back then, the hoodie also represented something. That's why you're going to see he always had on a hoodie, but it also meant to a degree he ain't had no clothes like that. See what I'm saying? That's what they was trying to say too. Like he came from a poor home. So once he got his hands on that firearm, that's when he became the man. And that's why you're going to see he was quick to get that firearm. Plus, back then, if you was broke, there was no such thing as you even affording that gun. You couldn't afford it. You know, you had to loan somebody sell it to you. So, but this was inspiration. You're also going to see how Tupac always was made to play the thug role, y'all. But we see when you got to look at it from back then, nobody had a clue who Tupac was going to be. Nobody knew what was going to come out of all of this. Everybody just knew this was a good movie, and you know that's just what it was. And also, what made it a good movie at the time, it was a lot of celebrity rap features in it, so a lot of rappers in it. And you know, meanwhile, y'all, this is all being promoted, but it's still a classic movie. But if you never saw nobody get a firearm to the back of their head, the movie taught you about it, let you see what it looked like. All right, but now it went into the level of friends slaying friends. So don't forget, he the same guy that was scared of the block, scared of the guys on the block. But it showed you once he got his hands on that firearm, a different spirit came over him. And when he shot that man, a whole nother spirit came over him. And after he shot that man, he got that adrenaline rush, and that was it. So it was telling you after he did that, he turned into a certified, you know what, killer. And he had a spirit, and he became a straight demon. And that's why he turned on his friends. Get it? But it was also showing you that it would be a day when punks gonna get their hands on guns, and this is stuff they're gonna do. All right, because he was straight punk. He was scared of Rodamans. He was scared of them. He was. That's what they were showing you in the movie, y'all. Nobody said we run from Rodamans, we run from old man. We always running, man. Because they were punks. That's why. They was not built like that. But they were cool, and they were Raheem's friends. Raheem was a street guy. So Tupac was jealous, and he got his hands on that gun, and Bishop went stupid. But just remember this one thing. Bishop became a lot of people's hero from back then to now. And just remember, BT always make sure they show this movie. That's why I say if you look at it all now in hindsight, you can see what all these movies really was about. See, when I tell you it was entertainment, yes, but it was also documentation of what was going on in the street, but it also was a script written for others to learn from the script. And this also when they get to put their little extra on it. But I also want y'all to see how the film back then made it look real. So that's another thing when you look at how people got more brainwashed back then, because the film was different, y'all. So I tell people the film back then was classical. It made it look real. So it's like you right on the block with them. It's like you in the house with them. See, not all that extra. It looked real because they was dealing with real film, which really made these films more believable. Get it? And more brainwashing, y'all. That's just what it is. They actually had a different effect. That film means a lot. So when I tell you stuff like everything went hologram, that's when everything started going digital. So that's why most of these movies now are not classics, because they're not filmed a certain way. Get it? And another thing, like I said about these movies, they capture the exact time frame of what was going on that time. So when you're watching this, you actually are looking at what was going on in Harlem, in them Harlem streets, how Harlem looked, Harlem blocks, and that's what's in the movie. That's why I say that's the documentary part, where you get to see how the neighborhood was early 90s. That's why I say these films are more than just films. Because if you go to Harlem, and they ain't going to look like that no more. But these movies captured the time. This what made them documentaries. All right? So you see that he was a punk. And Juice was showing us that people would do anything for a name. And you see people still doing it to this day. The concept always was, when you pour in the ghetto, you always got to do something to get out. And if you can't get out, you got to at least be somebody with a name. And that's what a lot of this was about. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Melanie. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yep. So, yeah, like, that's what I'm saying. It's like this. Tupac had to be glorified, y'all. So you can see it now. This when he first was glorified, first on the scene to a certain level. But this also showed us he was a hell of an actor, and this is what made that thug life sell. But you always could see, you can see now he was always the character to play the thug role. What people not also looking at, he played the thug role of the robber, right? The thug role of the person that slays your friend. Then in real life, they got him with RAPE charges, shooting cops, like all you got. When you look at his whole narrative, every role he played in Hollywood, he died. See, when I tell you, certain people's always a black cloud. That's what I'm trying to tell you, y'all. Certain people's always a black cloud. Tupac was always a black cloud. That's why he played a black cloud in this movie, y'all. They used him to be a demonic dark spirit. That's what he was. That's what he is. Just sorry to tell you that. All right? That black stuff is just a front. Meaning they might have meant good by that, but once they took them Hollywood checks, he was used for something else, y'all. And what made him so much of a star for real, he made that shit believable, which means he took that spirit of that script, he gave that shit life. All right? And that's the spirit of Tupac. That's the spirit of Juice. And that's the power of film, y'all. And they knew that back then. That's the power of Hollywood. All right? Hollywood made you believe anything. So now let's look at the aftermath of Juice, because for the celebrity, it always ends bad. When I say it's not a coincidence, he's selling chicken now. He's doing commercials. Not an owner. All right? You know Tupac is in the ground. All right? So what else you know? Well, if you didn't know, still got caught selling drugs. So you see how they played roles in this movie? Young street guys, but in real life, they still went out like street guys. See that? He just panned out as the guy. He don't do crime, but he still didn't pan out too good. Like, get it? That's what all that stuff mean, y'all. He started as a Hollywood actor, y'all. Now he's doing TV commercials for a brand. So that's why I say this how it all ends, man. So it also lets you see within Hollywood, if you don't take advantage of your opportunities and you don't do certain things, it's how your career going to end anyway. All right. So like I said, it's not, no, y'all, this is what I mean by, no, see, it's just a lot of stuff to a lot of y'all starting to see it now, but it all goes together, because the truth is, even when they play these certain roles, it comes back on them later. Get it? So like I said, it's all dark shit. It's all dark. Meaning they do the movie, these movies affect lives, and then sometimes the life they portray catches up to them. So just like in movies, in real life, Tupac got slaughtered. He got shot. See, so that's why I'm saying life is real trippy like that. But Juice is the modern day word. Clout. Clout is the modern day word for Juice. It's always been about that. But I'm just showing you how now that it's all over, we closing these chapters. You now can see that these movies were written, and they were written with a purpose. Because before this movie Juice, it was no such thing as friends slaying their friends like that. But you done seen it all since then. But don't forget this one thing, the main thing it showed us. The bad apple spoils the bunch. How you can have 4 young men and one of them can ruin all of them. It was also teaching about what I learned. I learned a lot from this shit, man. It also taught you how to choose your friends. Like when people say, you don't need to be with that person. All this is in the movie. Showing you how y'all can be good people, but you keep hanging with the wrong people. And now look, you got shot. Remember, he shot still didn't die. Huh? He shot 2 of his friends, y'all, and tried to take the other one out. That's what I mean by the script when they overdid the script too much. Because that would never happen in real life, where a guy's going to try to slaughter all his damn friends. It's been situations of friends shooting friends, yes, but I never heard of a guy going to war past slay all his friends. Now, my point is they put that in the movie. That was the overkill, right? So now y'all can see it clear. But what else? They also told us at this time something that came when they were saying that a certain percentage of y'all of these people are going to die. So out of every 4, at least 2 people was dying. And that's what started to happen, y'all. Because also, I'm telling you, when this movie came out, and ever since then, because it was back to back. After this came out, then Menace came out. But first, it was this how it really was. It was Boys in the Hood first, then it was Juice, then it was Menace. And they was like back to back. And that's what they was all gaslighting movies. They gave you the East Coast version, Juice, then they gave us the West Coast version with Menace. So when you talk about, and that's another thing, this era was gassed up by music. Back then, we was gassed up by movies. That was the real brainwash. You get it? Because we was in the gangster movies. That was the plan for us to get into them gangster movies. And that's what started it. And then the music went with it. So that's what all this come from. So, but now you see that everybody got paid, everybody got rich, certain people gone. These movies are classics. And that behavior of Juice, it has infected. So another movie to code, y'all. So if you didn't see it, which some of y'all, I'm pretty sure you did. If you didn't, watch it again if you saw it already. Because every time you watch these movies, you're going to get something else out of it every time. Every time you watch these movies, you're going to see something you didn't see before. And you're going to say, man, I didn't even notice that part. That's what makes these movies so good. And that's why they always got to be decoded. Because I'm giving you my decode one way, but when you see it, you're going to get something else out of it that I didn't see. That's what makes these movies so deep of what they are. All right, so like I said, when Hollywood was making these movies, y'all, when they was putting all them millions to these movies, they was not just doing it just to be doing it. Not at all. They understood the power of movie 100 years ago, that movies control realities, movies dictate reality, movies control history, dictate all of that. So they always knew this. That's why the camera and the TV, y'all, was the most powerful thing they ever created. It was that TV, y'all, that TV, them cameras, and them satellites that make the TV work, that make these cell phones work. Those are their greatest inventions ever. And these are the actual things that run everything. So on that note, movie to code, more to come. I'll holler at y'all. Much, much more to come. Y'all stay tuned. We out.